Sitting watching the new live action version of the Pinocchio movie with my little one, and a thought came across my mind. How great would it be if our inner voice, our conscience, was an actual physical being that could walk with us through life and guide us in the right directions? Well, unfortunately, the little voice inside of us is not as prevalent as Jiminy was to Pinocchio. You can't see where the voice is coming from, but you know it's there. And sometimes it doesn't say very nice things. In the back of our minds, there is that little voice that takes its cues from our biggest anxieties and creates a dialogue that takes on the persona of an addict. So, let's talk about this voice and the ways that we can loosen the grip of problematic thought loops that keep us mirrored in self criticism. This practice and meditation is really all about communicating with your inner critic. And the first step in the process is simply catching the voice when it first makes itself known. It would appear that the critic resides in a world of absolutes, leaving little to no room for gray areas or nuances. The Gemini's favorite words are should, always, and never, while blame seems to be the system from which it operates from. You've blown things. You always manage to do that. You should just let it go and give up. You're too different. No one's going to love you. You're so flawed. You'll never be able to help yourself, let alone anyone else. Instead of allowing us to create a wide and open platform for us to embrace our being, the critic inside of us causes us to question our worth and collapse in on its own self. For some, the critic inside is a specific voice from the past. Maybe it's one of your parents or a close relative, a child, or even someone not so close, like a former employee or a teacher that you had when you were younger. For me, it was my first grade math teacher, Miss Church. She had a few issues that we later found out were taken out on myself and a couple of other students in her classes. She would be particularly mean to us for a specific reason that had absolutely nothing to do with us as children or how we performed in her classroom. A friend or stranger may make an off colored remark that we ingest so deeply into ourselves and our minds that it becomes a part of our identities. And if these voices are not checked, they can be passed on like heirlooms. The identification goes even deeper. I have a friend who hears his mother's voice despite the fact that she passed on quite some time ago. A woman who revered thinness and physical beauty above all other human attributes. When he gains even a few pounds or gets the slightest cut or bruise, he hears her voice. Such crucial voices may even give us some comfort by connecting us to our past and to the most important people in our lives. The judgment of those we loved, looked up to, or cared about in any way are parts of our story. And if we don't spot them when they first appear, they can turn into judgments that we project onto others as well as onto ourselves. Here's where having a healthy mindfulness practice comes in. Mindfulness helps us to recognize the addictive aspects of self criticism. It's a repetitive cycle of flaying ourselves over and over again, feeling the pain as if it was new each time. The critic within may become a sort of companion to our suffering and isolation. For as long as we continue to harshly judge ourselves, it can feel as if we're making progress against our many flaws, but in reality, we're only reinforcing our sense of unworthiness. Yet, when we stop ignoring and start to pay attention, We'll notice just how quickly the critic within jumps in, even when something good happens. When we're befriended by someone, our critic may whisper that if they only knew how insecure and defective we are, they wouldn't want to stick around for very long. Making comparisons is one of the inner critic's favorite weapons to use against us. Fortunately, mindfulness is so much more wiser than the critic within. In meditation, you need to remember the goodness within. If you find yourself ruminating on the things that you regret and the mistakes that you've made, try this exercise. It'll help you to redirect your attention and remember the goodness within. The point is not to deny your mistakes, but if you keep rehearsing them, analyzing them, rehashing, creating storylines around them, you're simply reinforcing the pain and alienation that they've already caused you. When you recognize and reflect on even one good thing about yourself, you're building a bridge to a place of kindness and caring. Standing in that place increases your ability to look honestly and directly at whatever is difficult, and it gives you the energy and courage to move forward. When we start to recognize and reflect on even one good thing about ourselves, we are essentially building a bridge to a place of kindness and caring. If any impatience or judgments emerge during your mindfulness practice or your meditation, don't feel as though you've failed. This is entirely natural. Simply allow the negative reaction to ebb as a wave on the beach and see if you can return to the positive contemplation without self criticism. Sit comfortably in a relaxed, easy posture and close your eyes. Now bring to mind one thing that you've done or said recently that you feel was kind or good. It does not have to be newsworthy. Maybe you smiled at someone or listened to their story. Maybe you let go of your annoyance at a slow checkout clerk. Maybe you were generous. Maybe you sat down to meditate. Maybe you thanked a bus driver. It is not conceit or arrogance to consider these things. It's nourishing and replenishing to take delight in the good that moves through us. Or you may think of a quality or skill in yourself that you like or appreciate. Perhaps you are enthused about helping others learn, or committed to practicing patience towards an annoying neighbor. If you find yourself caught up in self-criticism, turn your attention to the mere fact that you have an urge towards happiness. Or simply recall that all beings everywhere want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. Never feel ashamed of your longing for happiness. Recall that this is your birthright. Seeking happiness is not the problem. The problem is that we often do not know where or how to find genuine happiness, and so make the mistakes that cause suffering for ourselves and others. But that urge towards happiness itself is rightful. And when we support it with mindfulness, it can become like a homing instinct or a compass pointing us towards freedom.